thank you for joining me on another episode of Girl Is That Legal. I'm your legal bestie, Attorney Simone. Apologies for that delay. Whew, it has been a day, child. There has been so much going on. Oh, let me catch my breath. Y'all, I was running up the steps because I needed a beverage. Okay. I needed a beverage. We're going to get into today. We're going to focus on Shannon Sharpe. Let me go ahead and plug this in. My Wi-Fi was cutting up, y'all. It was raining really bad, so I'm waiting on the Wi-Fi guy to come. So we're going to do as much as we can before they shut off my Wi-Fi. Second, let me charge this in. It's always something. It's always something. And the charger ain't working. All right, well, never mind. Guess I won't be charging my phone. What the hell? Y'all, it's just one of those days. All right, so in addition to this today, in addition to talking about this, stay tuned. Jesse and I recorded an episode of From Till Lies Do Us Part. So we're going to have that on tonight as well. We're just finishing up the editing on that. You know, we have to make sure that we don't disclose any private information. So that's the segment that I do with Jesse Wu, where we do background checks. So we'll have another one of those tonight. We're trying to release one every Wednesday. So I think tonight it should be released around 7 p.m. So definitely check back. So yes, Afra said, we are worn out from yesterday. Hit that like as you come on in. Let me tell you something. I have been listening to so many different, what's that man's name? So many different audio recordings, and I've been reading the text messages. Let's get some of those on the screen before we hop on into the new lawsuit. This new lawsuit that was filed, y'all, it's a mess. But I want to say this before we get into it. You don't forget, you can always go to my website, which is simoneredwine.com. There you can get my book, Background Checks 101. The guide to find out who you're really dealing with. It's only $19.99. And you can also click towards the top to book me if you'd like to have a confidential consultation. I do consultations on legal issues around America. So we're going to do that. Oh, and also, of course, I cannot forget, I also own the title company. Here we go. Experience Title. So if you are closing on a property anywhere in the state of Texas, please consider us at Experience Title, which is right here at 214-575-8300. Sorry, guys. I know I am talking super duper fast. All right, we're going to start with the newest audio that has come out that was released by attorney Tony Busby. Yes, second victim. Correct. Number 2, a second alleged victim. I wonder if it's going to have a third, fourth, fifth. She says his dirty secret's coming out. Oh, you don't want to miss this one. You don't want to miss it. All right. So with this one, so yesterday I went through the entire petition for the Tony Busby Jane Doe lawsuit. That is the lawsuit that was filed by the young lady who is the OnlyFans model. I guess are they called models? Whatever they want to call themselves. What that young lady does, right? And just because you are a sex worker, because that's what I consider. I looked at the videos, and that was, yeah, her bottom was in the air. She's definitely a sex worker. And just because you do that, though, it doesn't mean that you can't be assaulted. And we all know there are a lot of people who do get assaulted in those industries because men think they can get away with it. But what we're looking at here is we're going to go over some of this additional audio and these facts. And I want you to tell me, whose side are you more on? We've also got, hold on, we're going to add these. There were some text messages that came out. Child, these text messages. Here we go. I'm going to put them on this different one. We're going to add. There's so much to be added. There's just so much that he's got going on. And here we are. This is what it is. Okay, let me make sure I got the right one up. And we are going to remove that one. All right, let's start with this audio that they got going on here. Let me make sure that I'm showing you that. And let me know if you have any difficulty hearing it. Second victim, yes. All right, so here's the audio of a of audio that was released today from Tony Busby on behalf of his client. And I think what we're going to see is he's probably going to continue to release audio as he feels that Shannon may be gaining traction, or if he just feels like this case is falling out of the media, he's going to release more and more audio. And at this point, there's nothing that Shannon can do. There's no gag order. Shannon hasn't even filed his answer in the lawsuit. I'm actually surprised. Y'all, we've got over 300 watching. We need to get that hit that like button, please. So in this situation, so what we've got so far basically is that Busby has been leaking, not even leaking, he's been releasing to the media more audio in support of his client's position. And I believe that it's largely because he was upset that Shannon Sharpe released the fact that not only was she a OnlyFans girl, but gave her full name despite him filing her as a Jane Doe. So he wants to make sure that his side is in Tony Busby's victim side, also gets told. All right, so here's a clip. Oh wait, here we go.
Yes.
I'm gonna start it over. We need to hear from the beginning. It's only like a minute.
You're coming to LA tomorrow?
Yeah.
So that's her. That's her little voice. Got some gas.
I don't know why you want to go out.
Don't worry about it, Daddy.
Well, okay.
Okay, what?
Sorry. Hold on, let me switch that back. I'm sorry, that messed that up. Okay, we're gonna.
I'm getting choked, so I guess we're going.
Yeah.
Y'all gotta hear that from the beginning.
I might choke you in public.
Lord, hold on. Y'all gotta hear from the beginning.
Coming to LA tomorrow?
Yes.
Great question.
Well, I don't know why you want to go out.
Don't worry about it, Daddy.
Well, okay.
Okay, what?
Well, I'm not really interested in getting choked, so I guess we're going.
Yeah. I might choke you in public. Big black guy chokes small white woman.
It's not a good look, Shannon.
Not a good look that you did with the shit you did to me.
Okay, well, you're coming to LA tomorrow.
So that's it. When I heard that audio, I didn't sympathize with the plaintiff more. What I heard is what it sounded like. Well, my first question is, why are you recording this man? Why? What in particular happened? Do you record all of your phone calls? Because that would be weird. Do you record all of your friends? The way in which she's so super, super calm, it really sounds as though she's trying to bait him into saying something stupid, as he has on there. Big black guy and small white woman. Like, ugh. But it also absolutely does sound, I've seen some of you guys in the comments, it sounds like role play. It sounds like his particular kink, and that the two of them exercise together, is that he is dominant and he's going to boss her around and he's going to do whatever he wants to her and her butthole or whatever parts. And that as part of that role, she asks him to choke her and wants all these different things to occur. Right. And so in multiple instances, Shannon has said that the release of these tape, he's basically said, don't jump to conclusions. You have not received these tapes in context. You're only getting a small component of it, but it's not the full story. Well, I was thinking about it because the audio that we heard yesterday, let's see if I can play it again. The audio yesterday where she says, let me get, she says, no, I don't want to be choked. And he said, you don't have a choice. He says, yes, you do. Because that's something that she's asked for in the text message that we saw previously. In addition, we are getting into the second lawsuit. I just want to share this to just give you an update. This is an example of a text message where she sent him that said, and this was in the summer of last summer of 2024. She says, I want you to tie me up like this and abuse me, daddy. That's absolutely BDSM. Then we've got this one. Oh, this is one. Hold on. I definitely want to get to this one. But before I do, hold on. Yeah, this is the one where he says, okay, we got one more I wanted to add. You got to see this one. Because I was like, what in the world is wrong with these people? Here we are. She's got that one, and here we go. She had also sent a message. So he's releasing text. Tony's releasing audio. What's interesting is, although in the petition it stated that Shannon would record them without her permission, she's the only one that's releasing any audio. So I don't know what the deal is with that. She is the only one releasing the audio. Here we are. All right. She says to him, I want to be abused, daddy. She also says, I want like some hardcore BDSM action though. She says hardcore BDSM. That's where you slap each other, hit each other, hurt each other. That's where pain is supposed to be arousing, right? If that's your kink. So then I looked at what was supposed to be the most damning text message. And I do think this is the one that's going to be difficult for him. If there are women who have in any way experienced trauma, they will have difficulty finding him innocent from this text message exchange if they're on the jury. This is where she says to him after their second sexual encounter, she says, but I cried when you left because I begged you to put on a condom and not put it in my butt, and you didn't listen. I don't care what our history is. No means no, said Shannon. So she says again, I cried when you left, which means he didn't see her crying. So she was not crying during their sexual encounter. Let's be clear. He did not see her crying. She was not crying during their encounter. But she says, but I cried when you left because I begged you to put on a condom and not put it in my butt, and you didn't listen. Now, here's the thing about BDSM. Now, you just saw the text message where she says she wants some hardcore BDSM. Here's the problem with BDSM. With BDSM, it's all about the pain. So if that is your usual way of having sex with each other, then it makes it difficult for the partner to know if you're saying, don't do this, it hurts because you're aroused and that's part of your role play, or if that's what you actually mean, which is stop, it hurts. The response here was, so she says, but I cried when you left because I begged you to put on a condom and not put it in my butt, and you didn't listen. I don't care what our history is. I don't care what our history is. That means in the past, this is what we usually do. She's saying on this particular day, I wanted it different, which she has a right to say. And then she says, no means no, Shannon. Then she says, I don't know how to process this. His response, can I call you later? Now, some people said, well, why wouldn't you say, I didn't do that, that didn't happen? Well, there's a lot of different ways to handle it. Stop trying to defend it. There are rules even in SM. I'm not done, and you can shut up. This is my channel. Feel free to leave. When he says, I can call you later, that could have been a moment where he was like, hold on, is she trying to set me up for something? Like, I just think that I don't think that if you would have immediately been like, what are you talking about? That doesn't necessarily mean, like, just because he didn't write that doesn't mean that's not what he said when he called her. Because he may have said, can I call you later? And then called her. We don't know. I don't know. See, here's the thing. Just Jonda. With BDSM, it's all about consent. Everyone is not into the element of BDSM. I'm sorry, I meant to put that up. It's all about consent. Yeah, here's the thing. But you guys that want to talk about that, this is what you guys don't conveniently discuss, is that in BDSM, y'all have what? What do they call the word? A safe word. Why do you have a safe word? Because no doesn't necessarily mean no with BDSM. So for all y'all little freaky freaks who want to be involved with that, you need to be honest. Specifically, when I pulled it up, it says, when people are role playing BDSM activities, they want the freedom to express themselves. This means protesting, shrieking in pain, or even pleading with the other person to stop. A safe word allows freedom while providing a communication method that ensures the role play remains consensual. In other words, it means that the whole purpose of safe words is because the traditional words that would let someone know to stop are not necessarily applicable depending on your kink. Here, where her kink is she wants to be choked and slapped and she wants hardcore BDSM, those are her words. There is a version in which the facts could also include if she is telling him no, he may not have understood no to mean I don't want it in my butt today. I wanted it in my butt all the other days. Today, I don't want it in my butt. Or I want to use a condom today. I didn't want the other. I think the condom is less persuasive. But if you've always put it in her butt, and she loves butt stuff, because if you've looked at any of her OnlyFans content, that's what it is. If she picks this given Thursday to be like, no, but if no is how they go back and forth, he's definitely the dominant one, and he likes her pleading, begging, crying. Let me tell you this. I would bet money that this damning video that what's his name? Wait, Travel Subby said her safe word may have been condom. Yes, she wanted to use a condom because he was sleeping around, which makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. We can't negate the fact that he is a million years older than she is. Sure. But I'm speaking about just at this moment, I'm speaking about the fact that she has the text message that says, it doesn't matter what we've done in the past. No means no. What I'm saying is in the BDSM context, no doesn't mean no. That's why they have safe words. That's all. Now, let's get, this was another segment that was about that. It says participating while in pain. I researched, do people continue? It says, yes, a submissive person might participate even while experiencing pain, because in BDSM, pain can be a source of pleasure or a component of the desired experience for some individuals. This is often linked to the release of endorphins and the psychological dynamics of the power exchange. The key difference between consensual pain in BDSM and non-consensual pain is control and communication. The submissive person in this scenario has agency and can communicate their limits and desires. Absolutely. They are choosing to experience the sensations within the agreed upon framework. So that's all I'm saying. No is not her safe word. It was not the safe word. That was clearly not the safe word. I'm not talking about all of the couples, Blake, I'm talking about the woman in the text messages that says, here you go, Blake. I'm talking about the woman in the text messages that says she wants hardcore BDSM. She wants to be slapped. She wants to be hurt. She wants you to put things in her bottom, and she wants you to choke her. I'm talking about her. So not you, Blake, not you. Okay? Yes, he absolutely did it to himself, and this is ridiculous. And it doesn't help that he's also got this other pending lawsuit in New York State alleging the same type of thing. I think I'm going to start this one. So this New York lawsuit, hold on, and give me a second. Before I get into the lawsuit in New York, the second one, I want to close out with this thought. We're going to wait and see, of course, what is in this damning video that Tony Busby has said, doggone it, that Tony Busby has said he's going to release, but not until trial. My guess is that it's going to be audio or video recording of that last sexual encounter that they had. Why? Because Shannon keeps saying, Tony, release the whole 10 minutes. And remember, in the petition, the allegation is that the total final sex act they had was 10 minutes. Now, we know it happened at her house. We know she recorded it. We also know that from the statements in the petition, this happened after he had allegedly R-worded her previously. So he R-worded her in October, and then she continues to message him, discuss having sex, tell him that she wants to have sex, tell him that she wants to charge him $25,000 per butt cheek. Then he comes over, and she happens to have her audio recording set up. I bet you the sound is going to be phenomenal. And you know what else I bet? I bet in this video, she's going to be crying and whimpering and saying all of the no's and all of the things. Because it's also consistent with that text message, right? That we just saw. The text message that just said, no means no, da-da-da. Remember, it's at her house, so she can, and she's the only one that knows that it's being recorded. So she can make herself sound as much or as little like a victim as she wants, like the little white lady, and him like the big black man, which is what he deserves. That's what we determine. Yes. Have there been other subtle lawsuits? I can't. I'm not sure of that yet. So I just say that to say, let's watch out. We'll see what happens with this final video if it gets all the way to a trial. Me personally, what I would recommend if he were my client, I would say, Shannon, buckle up, mortgage what you got to mortgage, put that money to the side, but we've got to take this all the way to trial. There can be no settlement. There can be no negotiations at this point. If you want to preserve your reputation, you gave that lady the option of 10 million. If she was going to go away quietly, she's not. Now you better defend your black behind all the way to the end. Because in this instance, this is civil only. Remember, it's civil. So there's no risk at this point of him going to jail. Excuse me. And so he's going to need to Johnny Depp it, take it all the way to the end, and hope for the best, depending upon how they're able to build up their case. But also, how they pick their jury is going to be critical. Why? Shoot, which one is this? Hold on. How they pick the jury is going to be critical, because what many also don't realize is when you're picking a jury, guess who you actually don't want on a jury when it's a case like this? You don't want a bunch of women. You don't want a bunch of men. Women are more likely to get a man off on these kind of accusations, on assault accusations, than men. I had a mentor, and he talks about the biggest mistake he ever had. He had an innocent client in Brooklyn, and he picked an all-male jury because he thought that jury would see through all the lies, that this was a boyfriend-girlfriend situation where, the ex-girlfriend was jealous and she claimed our word. But no, those men, it's something about men want to give the woman the benefit of the doubt. They went with guilty, even though everything was, the evidence was not there and it was super flimsy, versus women, we literally will look at the facts and we'll be like, no, if that happened to me, I wouldn't go back to his house 3 months later. If that happened to me, I would not have texted Shannon and talked about having sex. I would not have told him that I wanted, to sell each of my booty cheeks to him after he allegedly R-worded me in October. So it'll be interesting to see the jury as well. Now, here we go. This second lawsuit, oh my gosh. Now, it is by a Michelle. So, my first question was, is this Michelle? Is this Michelle from Instagram? But no, it's not. Nope. Oh, this is the second one. It's not actually Michelle from Instagram. This is a different Michelle. She also appears to be Caucasian. She seems to be Caucasian as well. Bless her little heart. Bless her heart. And this one was initially filed in 2023. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, it's not the Michelle. Apparently, Michelle's are his thing. Okay, that's just what he likes. That is what he likes. This lady is, as you'll see, she's different. She's special. She is different. Including, I had to highlight this for you guys. So this is actually her second amended complaint. She initially filed it in 2023. And this case hadn't been going too well for her. You'll see why shortly. So what did she just do 2 weeks ago? March 25th, she filed another one against him. she filed another one of the same lawsuit against Shannon Sharpe. Now, this is her second amended affidavit in support of her amended complaint. All right. So basically, she's updated the facts and is filing this with the court. All right. Now, pay close attention. Page 2. She says, in addition, upon advice of several lawyers, the plaintiff, her, updates the causes of action to include assault and battery, given that plaintiff, her, filed her complaint within the window of the Adult Survivors Act and contained a detailed account of events covered under the act. She said at the time of filing the complaint, plaintiff was incarcerated with limited access to the outside world and was unaware of the act or its reach, which includes actions occurring outside of New York State. Okay. So she goes to jail a lot. Okay. I had to make sure that you saw this one. Now we're going to hop down. She files a lot of complaints. Now, what I do when I first look at a complaint is I like to go to the end and see who is the lawyer, who's the law firm. Do I know them from Cornell? Do I know them from law school? Do I know them from moot court? Like sometimes opposing counsel will be, people that I knew. Kayla Bumpus from the YSL trial, I knew her. And I look, here go the lawyer, Michelle. She's her own lawyer. Michelle went to jail. She went to jail for a lot of things. She hits people. She assaults people, a lot of things. So Michelle is her own lawyer. Michelle is pro se. When I saw that, I said, oh, this is going to be some bullshit. This going to be some bull. This is the third amended. This is the most recent version that she done try to file. Or this is the second amended, rather. This is going to be some bullshit. And I can tell you that because think about this. If you had actually been R-worded by Shannon Sharpe, the multi-millionaire, you think you'd have problem finding a lawyer? Absolutely not. What this woman alleges in her docs is that the reason she has to represent herself is that the lawyers were too expensive for her. Now, this is the second woman. This is not the OnlyFans lady. This is Michelle was saying that lawyers were too expensive and it was going to cost her more than $100,000. Bitch, you lying. You are lying. These cases are taken on contingency because on the opposing side, those people have so many millions that eventually will be able to collect. We don't take these cases on an hourly basis because if that were the case, victims would never get justice. Corporations and rich people know who they can mess with, and they would know, hey, I can do this to this person. I can hit them with my car. I can whatever. And because they couldn't afford to sue me, they'll never get justice. So that was a darn lie. So, okay. So I'm going to read you guys this background. She wrote this and you'll be able to tell. And then I'm going to skip a little bit to the third amended complaint because it's got some stuff in there that was insane. She says, in the month of September 2010, the presence of the defendant was noted within my residential abode. At that juncture, we had been engaged in an intimate relationship of considerable duration, nearly a decade. A dispute had arisen, provoked by my recent and unsettling revelation that Shannon had clandestinely introduced another woman into his domicile, a fact which he had deliberately concealed from me. Amidst this contentious exchange, Shannon expressed his desire to engage in sexual relations. My response was unequivocally negative, articulated thusly, no, because you gave it to somebody else. Notwithstanding my clear objection, the defendant proceeded to forcefully subdue me, compelling me to my knees and subsequently engaging in a non-consensual oral penetration. Despite my protest, he persisted in this violation. Consumed by fear and the perplexing nature of his actions, I harbored a deep-seated apprehension that resistance would precipitate further detrimental outcomes. Thereafter, Shannon's coercion escalated as he maneuvered me onto the bed and achieved non-consensual vaginal penetration. What is this word here? All the while proclaiming his intent to, quote, make it so that no other man would want me. Y'all remember that in The Tony Busby complaint, he said, I'm going to make it to know what other man wants you. That's probably an old-timey term, meaning I'm going to stretch you out. I'm going to stretch out your butthole. Or I'm going to stretch out your vagina and or both. I'm going to give it to you real rough, something gross like that. I believe that's what y'all let me know in the chat. What do y'all think make it so no other man would want me means? Then she says, I was bereft of understanding as to his meaning, yet acutely aware of my voice descent in the aftermath of these heinous acts. Shannon's comportment took a more menacing tune. He levied threats of ruin, declaring that any attempt on my part to disclose his transgressions would be met with a comprehensive campaign to, quote, use everyone I know to destroy you. Now, I believe he'd say something like that because he seems real mean when he don't get what he wants. It says, given Shannon's extensive acquaintances, the gravity of this threat loomed large, engendering an intensified state of fear within me in response to his unrelenting harassment, which persisted even during my hours of employment. I sought and obtained judicial relief in the form of a protective order. This legal safeguard was subsequently relinquished when the defendant engaged in an act of doxing, maliciously exposing my personal address through court documents. Ma'am, that is absolutely not what doxing is. When you file a court document, when you file a lawsuit against somebody, you have to put their address. It is not his fault, and you're not required to redact it or anything else. So no, silly lady, that was not doxing you by putting your address. That way they know that they're suing the proper Michelle Evans. You know how many Michelle Evanses there are in the United States of America? Probably about 50, 11, probably a plethora, quite a few, ma'am. Next, she says, the consistent media exposure engendered a profound concern for the safety of both myself and my kin. That's why I'm reading it like this, herself and her kin. It is within this she's hold on. It's working. Okay. I think it came back. Okay. Let me make sure I can see you guys to the side. Okay. My sound is messing up. Okay. Oop. There we go. I should be good now. Let me get a thumbs up. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. The Wi-Fi sucks. I'm going to turn my video off just so you get for a minute while it gathers itself. Yeah, they're working. They're doing some stuff. I'm gonna stop my video. Hold on. While we keep going, because y'all need to see that this is really. Hold on, this is really it's really stupid, y'all. I'm for real. I was like, and y'all have to keep in mind she is writing this herself from her jail cell. She's in prison. I believe this one is for stalking, assault, or DUI. I can't remember. There's so many different ones. Okay, there we go. Hold on. It says the good news is she'll probably be able to get an attorney now. It sure could be. All right, I'm over to the side. Hopefully this makes the signal a bit better. All right, here we go. And I'm not reading the whole however many hundred pages, but she says we're just gonna get to the meat of it. She says. She said, okay, she got the protective order. It says this legal safeguard was subsequently relinquished when the defendant engaged in an act of doxing. In other words, she got a protective order. Here's the thing: don't be fooled. Usually, you get an emergency protective order because it's just you and the judge. You bring the judge some evidence. It could be a text message or it could be something manufactured where you're like, I'm in fear of my life because of something this person did. The judge grants it 99.9% of the time and then sets it for a hearing about 2 weeks later. And in that hearing, that would have been where Shannon was able to come and say, I didn't do this. She doesn't need a protective order. I don't care about this lady. I'm not stalking her. And no, Your Honor, I don't put a protective order against me because it's going to make people think I'm the nut here. So she says, the constant media exposure, she says, engendered engendered, y'all, a profound concern for the safety of both myself and my kin. And it is within this filing that I break my silence regarding these matters, having heretofore refrained from the police report, she says. Then she goes on to say, basically, he's made a lot of defamatory commentary, she says, assailing my professional reputation with particular emphasis on my prior collaborative endeavors with the defendant. I don't know what that means. Maybe doing it to him? I'm not sure. It says, moreover, allegations fabricated by defendant's former intimate acquaintance, Michelle Basner. Oh, I wonder if that's the Michelle. We got to figure out which Michelle that is. With whom I had professional engagements as evidence in Exhibit F were compounded by fabrications. I got the exhibits too, if we want to go into those in a different day. Oh, maybe we should look at that so we could just see if do we think that's the same Michelle? Hell, I got it. Why not? Let's look at it. Let's look at it. She said Exhibit F, right? Okay, let me go to Exhibit F. She said Exhibit F. Let me look at it. Oh, yeah, hold on. Yeah, where is this? Okay. Yeah, we gonna have to look at this. Hold on. I'm gonna put this up for you guys. This is both of the Michelles. I don't know which is which, but we about to find out. Here we go. Oh my word. Both of the Michelles. Okay. This is very strange. Here, y'all about to see. We about to see her. We about to see. Somebody said, I bet she looks like his type. So we said, what exhibit letter did I say that it was? Oh, it's still downloading. Hold on. It's just taking your sweet time. Let me see if I could share it in a different way. Hold on. Let's see. If I can share it in a different way, because y'all need to see this. Now, a window. Here we go. What the hell? Is that it? Let me see. It's too much shit going on my screen. Hold on. We don't want that. It's too confusing. Hold on. Let's see if I can add. I'm trying to, y'all got to see Michelle. Y'all got to see Michelle. Oh my goodness. So strange. All of this is just so strange. But yeah, she won't. Here we go. I'm going to try it this way. Here we go. We're going to get Michelle back up here. Yeah, he definitely got a type, boy. That's for sure. And she did all this from her jail cell. You can tell. Because the quality of some of these exhibits and stuff, girl, you just over here doing stuff. But I see why she couldn't get a lawyer. She sounds ridiculous. All right, but here we go. And I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of people in here who probably believe her, but here we are. So here is the photo I am adding of Miss Michelle, or it's two Michelles together. So let's see if you're able to see it. Oh, it's not loading. All right, something's going on. We'll go back. Here we go. Go back to the is this it? Here we go. Let's go back to the lawsuit. Here we are. She doesn't look like, you know what? I'm going to post it. I'll post it on my community wall. How much is Shannon worth now? All right. So basically, she continues to give these allegations. Now she says, she then says these accusations must be contemplated within the context of the defendant's articulated threat to wield his connections as instruments of my destruction. Despite the portrayal of my living circumstances by the media as me being destitute, I was, in fact, the proprietor of a residence situated on 3 acres. On 3 acres in the state of Georgia, and I maintained a lease dwelling in proximity to my place of employment. In 2014, the defendant directed his step toward the premises of my then employer, Turner Broadcasting. His disc thereon encompassed the issue of domestic violence within the ranks of the National Football League players. During the segment, the program's moderator made a cursory reference to Shannon's historical entanglements with domestic violence allegations, noting that he had a case that was completely dropped. Regrettably, this account omitted the critical detail that it was I who had rescinded the order. In other words, it came out, yeah, Michelle is batshit crazy. Michelle is crazy. She, I guess, made allegations against him. It was investigated and everything was dropped. Charges were completely dropped. Now she's claiming she dropped the charges and she literally is suing him for defamation, claiming that this is defamation because it was a lie as to how the lawsuit was actually resolved. That's not what defamation is. Absolutely not. She then says, whilst my identity was not directly invoked, the aforementioned appearance precipitated a ripple effect, inspiring the nationally televised Saturday Night Live to concoct a satirical vignette predicated upon Shannon's interview on State of the Union, as evidence in Exhibit Z. I have that too. I can't play all of them. It said the skit alluded to his legal predicaments dating back to 2010, which were indisputably connected to our judicial encounter. At that period, my professional responsibilities entailed the dissemination of CNN's video content on their YouTube channel. It was through the execution of these duties that I became cognizant of Shannon's televised discussion. The discovery was, to articulate it mildly, perturbing. In close temporal proximity to the event, my tenure at Turner Broadcasting was abruptly terminated under the guise of a, quote, layoff post, which I had been subjected to prolong. She's saying post this, so after I had been subjected to prolonged unemployment, bereft in the capacity to secure gainful employment. Since the occasion of Shannon's CNN interview, he has incessantly resurrected the narrative of our shared past on public forums, including TV, radio, and social media. In moments when the public discourse pivots to the misconduct of celebrated sports personalities, Shannon opportunistically interjects himself into this dialogue, often hinting or unequivocally, she loves the goddamn word unequivocally, alleging that my allegations were false. Okay, I'm jumping down because she's getting on my nerves. We get into the end of this. She says, in 2015, I entered into the sacred bonds of matrimony. Subsequent to this union, it became my woeful burden to endure acts of domestic violence of a grievous nature perpetrated by my spouse. To rationalize his reprehensible conduct, he frequently invoked the name of the defendant. In 2017, I endeavored a flight from the oppressive clutches of my husband, an attempt that culminated disastrously. Y'all, this is where you pay attention. An attempt that culminated disastrously. In the midst of my effort to flee, he leapt up on the conveyance. Bitch, what is the conveyance? Is it a conveyor belt at the airport? What is the conveyance? Stop making up jail words. Just because you're in jail doesn't mean you have to use a thesaurus. Talk like regular people. This is why I get aggravated when I have jailbird clients and they want to talk to me. I'm like, just spit it out. And they want to use all these big words. It's not necessary. Doesn't make you sound smarter. It actually perplexes people. It's strange, it's bizarre, and it's annoying. Okay. She said, in her effort to flee, he, her husband, leapt upon the conveyance, resulting in a vehicular mishap wherein he sustained injuries. The authorities thereafter levied charges of assault against me. It was probably aggravated assault with a deadly weapon because that's what a vehicle is. Then she says, owing to the jurisdiction of New York's legislative framework, which does not recognize the principle of self-defense, lie, that's an absolute lie. She says, I was compelled to enter into a plea agreement. Subsequent to this, I was afforded a mitigation of sentence pursuant to the merits of the Domestic Violence Survivors Justice Act, a clemency granted post a judicial proceeding in which I demonstrated the extent of my husband's maltreatment. In an attempt, but mind you, she still ended up in jail because she wrote this from prison. She put it on page 2. So we got to see how she ended up back in jail. It says, in an attempt to exacerbate the severity of my judicial sentencing, the defendant proffered not merely one, but a pair, two sworn statements replete with falsities to the presiding court. The adjudicatory process, girl, where are you getting these words, was protracted well into the year 2022. Girl, you could have just wrote 2022. An extension necessitated by the encumbrances of the pandemic. She states, quote, I was coerced to take this plea by my lawyer who did not disclose an existing conflict of interest in regards to the defendant, neither to the court nor the plaintiff as required. In addition, the plaintiff was threatened by the presiding assistant district attorney, Jesse Matthews, that if she testified at the grand jury hearing, at her own grand jury, that he would not take the domestic violence into account. So basically, she's saying that this was a conspiracy against her because of Shannon Sharpe when she hit her husband with a car and almost killed him, and then wanted to argue that it was domestic violence when she hit him with the car, that it was a conspiracy and that it was the assistant district attorney and these people that were conspiring against her. The plaintiff's lawyer then refused to allow her to testify. The plaintiff, by the way, it's a grand jury. Defendants are not allowed to testify at their own grand jury. And her lawyer was right. You don't let your client testify at a grand jury because whatever they say under oath can be used against them at trial. If you do that, you completely waive your right to plead the fifth, your right to not incriminate yourself. A little stupid. She's been to jail too many times and she thinks she's a goddamn lawyer. That's what this is. It says the plaintiff may have never been indicted had she been given the chance to testify. You don't testify at your own grand jury. You don't. That's not a thing in the universe. But she's the lawyer. Fast forward, this is how we got here today. She says, in January of 2023, the defendant caused a scene at an NBA Lakers game and got into a heated argument. Nobody cares. And got into an argument with some players. He then said, they didn't want this smoke, Dave. They do all that talking and jockeying, and I ain't about that jockeying. It started with Dylan Brooks. I said he was too small to guard LeBron, la, la, la. And then Ja came out and he says, the defendant, and then he says, and then Ja came out of nowhere talking. He definitely didn't want these problems. This is what Shannon is saying on TV. Shannon then says, then the dad, this is when he got into it with Ja Morant's dad. He said, then the dad came and he obviously didn't want no problems, but I wanted anything they had. Don't let these fools fool you now. She says, the defendant did this on national TV in front of children present, not caring about anybody but himself. Imagine what he would be willing to do behind closed doors with no one watching. Then she goes on the nightcap, blah, blah, blah. But hold on, we don't pull out. This was all very, very stupid. But she's suing him for libel. This is all very stupid. She also states that, she got arrested. She was arrested for making false allegations of assault and for engaging in acts of harassment against him. It says the defendant, with a significant following exceeding 1 million individuals on Twitter, issued several statements that, when read by an ordinary individual, engendered the erroneous belief that I had been apprehended for levying false allegations of assault and for engaging in acts of harassment against him. Nevertheless, I categorically affirm that I neither initiated contact with law enforcement, this is weird, regarding the defendant's sexual misconduct, nor filed any such police report, thereby negating any possibility of arrest for fabricating these claims. Additionally, there exists no record of the defendant submitting any complaints of stalking against me. He also accused her of stalking. She then goes on to talk about all the different ways in which the world has wronged her, and then concludes with, I was subsequently sent to prison where I endured physical and emotional abuse. Girl, that's what happens in prison. But hold on, let me see if I can get to the assault. So she's added, it's just like a bunch of libel, slander, negligent infliction is for basically talking on the news and letting people talk about her and creating false perceptions. She says he negligently or intentionally accused her of crimes that she didn't commit. It says the defendant conspired with the assistant district attorney to ensure that I was sent to prison. During my time, my 8-year-old niece was killed on the 4th of July in a parade, and I was unable to grieve with my family or watch the funeral services. This caused me extreme emotional distress, and I had to be placed in a mental health crisis unit to care for my severe emotional trauma. Ma'am, I'm so sorry that this happened to you, but something tells me this was not the only cause of your mental health challenges. But y'all, I want to just show you this. I've never seen anything like this. She puts her conclusion, and then it's like she starts adding like science information, psychological repercussions of the events that transpired. It's kind of like a book report too. She's got charts. Look at this. Impact of defendant's actions on Michelle Evans. So it's got a little pie chart, right? Like we're back in math class. We got a pie chart. Now we've got the big little 24. Oops. Sorry, guys. I want to make sure you hear this. We've got a little pie chart, and apparently 24.3% of her sadness, of her psychological and emotional trauma was due to him. 24% of the impact of these actions of Shannon Sharpe was psychological and emotional trauma on her. 10% of it was depression. Another 10% reputational damage. Ma'am, you're in prison for running your husband over with a car. I don't think this is what damaged your reputation. She's also got traumatic bonding, 5.4%. Legal and judicial stress, 5.4%. Anxiety and panic attacks. Social isolation, because she had to go to jail. That's what happens when you hit your husband with a car, 5.4%. And then we've got economic hardships. Literally, like I'm just going to, like all of this is like, it reminds me of like when you do a science project back in the day, the science fair, and then you have to like show your work. So you have to have like a little written report, and it's got graphs and they're colorful. Yeah. Here, this is also common public comments about Michelle. These upset her as well. And the impact on her. This is all. I didn't know they had access to all. Those are some good jail computers, boy. That's good. I like people in jail to be able to, I like people in jail to be able to educate themselves. She is actually suing here for not less than 10 million in one area and 4 in the other. So she wants 14 million is the gist of what she was saying. So here's my point. Oh, and there is, I do have to show you this one crazy part. She then amended it a plethora more times, but I have to show you this one allegation because I have never seen anything like it. Page 18, huh? Sorry, we got to go all the way to page 18. What was that? Yeah, I know. We got it. Y'all have to see this. She amended it a few times, and she's got certain allegation. Yeah. Yeah. It was so strange. But I believe if this happened, I believe it. Here we go. It's page 18. Hold on. I got to get all the way to it. Is it this one? Yeah, she walked. Oh, yeah, she was really upset because he made her walk. She was wearing 5-inch heels and had to walk 10 blocks. I'm not exactly sure why, but she definitely included that. I mean, she's got nothing to do in prison but this. Come on. Oh, yes, this is my favorite. All right. It says in 2007, this is paragraph 51. You're going to want, trust me, this is a good little finale for us to end on. It says in 2007. Now, mind you, her interaction with him started in 2002. And according to him, she stalked him all through this phase, right? According to her, they were in a relationship and he just couldn't seem to be faithful. But it says in paragraph 51, in 2007, while living in Manhattan, years into their tumultuous relationship, she's talking about her own, defendant Sharpe phoned plaintiff and asked her to take a taxi and visit him around 10 p.m. at the hotel. The plaintiff relented. The pair engaged in consensual intercourse. The next morning, when the pair again engaged in consensual intercourse, plaintiff found herself on top of the defendant. Okay? After a short time, the defendant became enraged when he realized plaintiff had started her period and was bleeding on him. She was bleeding on him. Defendant physically pushed plaintiff off of him and began berating her, shaming and humiliating plaintiff for starting her period. Oh, 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 this poor woman. The PTSD. Oh, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Like, how dare he be upset about her for getting her period and getting a little period blood on him? That's not part of is that part of the BDSM? And y'all, when I read that, I couldn't do nothing but chuckle, because if you've seen clips before, he is really ridiculous in that, like, not ridiculous, but he talks about how women are not allowed to pass gas around him and they cannot do number two at his house. Like, they can't do number two at his house. If you need to do number two, you need to get in a car and you need to drive down to the Whataburger, poo-poo in there, and then come on back, take a shower, and whatever else. But yes, so she has details. That's why I had to, I'm so sorry I had to come at y'all with this frivolousness, but it was so stupid. I said, I have to share it. So it says, Crystal says, I'm sorry, I agree with him. She knew she was coming on her cycle. How old is she? Great question. She's grown. Good question. She's not a kid like the other one. She's been in jail a while. I will find out. I'm going to do a little digging on her. I'm not exactly sure. But I also wanted to cover this case, y'all, because here's the other point here. This was filed by her in 2023. Actually, it says August of 2023, the entire lawsuit was filed. He started dating the 19-year-old in 2023. In other words, he should have abso-freaking-lutely known better. He should have known better, due to the fact that he's dealing with this other crazy woman who's accused him of the R word, who could ruin his reputation, blah, blah, blah. That's why his lawyer made him the doggone NDA in the first place, so that he didn't end up in situations like this. He is too old to be making mistakes like this. So I think that's why a lot of people do not feel bad for Shannon. They don't feel bad for Shannon Sharpe, simply due to the fact that this is not your first time dealing with a crazy lady who has accused you of this and nearly ruined your life. Now, the only reason it didn't go further, like it didn't ruin his brand and stuff, is anybody who read that would see that she's bonkers. She's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, okay? She is, weirder than a $3 bill. It's ridiculous. Now, Medusa says this is his third time. There are two that I'm aware of, and the other two are hers. She's filed a lawsuit against him 2 different times, 2023 and again a month ago. Now, there may have been someone he, settled against, but let me know in the chat. I'm just, every single last one of hers. Yes. So here's the thing as well. Tony Busby referenced this case loud and clear in his petition. Those are the things that make Mr. Busby's petitions lose credibility with me. For him to point to that, this literally, these documents, to say that, oh yeah, he's, known for this behavior. She's a loony toony. Now, and someone's saying in the chat that he's got 20 suits against him. If he's got multiple suits, Mr. Busby, you could have pointed to any of the other ones, not this nut sitting in the prison jail cell with nothing to do but to work on the, what is it called? The MS dot matrix, on this dot matrix printer in the first generation of an Apple, to type up what we just saw here. I mean, that's ridiculous. Did his stylist need to leave to use the restroom? I don't know. It said, did Michelle B use ChatGPT to? I thought, no, this is worse. ChatGPT would have been better. I think she wrote it and then used an online thesaurus to replace every word with the word that had 2 to 3 more syllables. Yeah, this is just, it's truly nutty. But Private and Confidential asked an excellent question, saying, why isn't he countersuing her? I believe they're just working on drafting it and trying to determine what all the allegations are, what are all the allegations that they want to include in it. So I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. Let me know what questions you have below. I think we're going to, I have a feeling we're going to continue to hear audio and or to receive transcripts or screenshots. And at the end of the day, I'll say this. These are some really strong text messages. These are some really bad, this is some really bad audio. And if Shannon Sharpe was my client, the strategy I would have would absolutely be, we're going to hire a BDSM expert, some internationally renowned, I don't know, Harvard sexologist, I don't know, and have them come in and say, what you're hearing is not me actually trying to hurt or choke her or any of those things. That was how we played. And if the audio, which I'm anticipating, is going to be her crying and no, then he's going to need some type of expert to explain why that would not be grounds for you to stop. Why wouldn't someone stop if that's what's going to be in the audio? Now, also, here's the other thing that is going to be interesting on how it plays with the jury, because it's all, at the end of the day, whoever tells the better story wins, right? Is the two instances where she claimed he R-worded her, both of those occurred after the revelation of Michelle and the fact that he was cheating on her. And both of them happened at his house. Now, at her house. I'll say this, as an attorney who has represented people wrongfully accused of assault, it's really, really rare that it occurs, that all of the instances, if there's been one instance, would only be at the woman's house. Why? Because the man has more control over what goes on at his house or his hotel or his things. But here's the thing. At her house is the only place she can control the audio. So depending on how his attorneys are able to cultivate, research the evidence, and support it, it could seem as though it is a shakedown. But then, of course, you're going to have the fact that some people have already heard he offered 10 million. And let me speak to this 10 million before we go. With the 10 million, if he were my client, I would have told him to offer 10 million to her too. People think 10 million means you must be guilty. No, 10 million means I can't risk these allegations ruining my future. That's what that means. You also have to keep in mind there's audio that's going to be taken out of context. There is the visual, him, big black boy, her, teenage, petite little thingy. She looks innocent, as far as the jury goes. She's more sympathetic than him for sure, a million times over. Also, with that 10 million, if you think about it, for him to fight this whole case, it's probably going to be around 5 million. So it would really be like he's giving her 5 additional million, but not even that, because it won't even go in her pocket. What would probably reach her, if it was 10 million, what would reach her pocket? 33 1/3. It might be like 7. But at the end of the day, he's going to have to spend about 5 million to fight this regardless. And what it would have done to save his reputation absolutely would have been worthwhile. Furthermore, and most importantly, he had $100 million deal on the table. So if I've got this $100 million deal on the table and I've got to slide this lady over here 10 million to be quiet, I still got 90 million. That's more money than he'd ever had in his lifetime. So for those reasons, I could definitely see why that offer was on the table. But let me tell you something I wouldn't have did. I wouldn't have never in my life admitted that we offered that little girl $10 million. I would have took it to my fucking grave. It's not admissible in court. That fact is not admissible. He didn't have to tell people that, but that attorney, bless his little heart, he's an older gentleman. He's one of those older gentlemen. There you go. Sorry. He's one of those older gentlemen that is probably amazing. We know that he's an amazing litigator. And what happens sometimes when you hire a lawyer that's an old school litigator, all they care about is getting in there, winning their motion, arguing to the court. They're not good with the media piece. Actually, they suck at it. They do things like he did, where in an interview, press conference, that man should have never hosted nobody's press conference. That man is about 11 years old. He's probably about 93. Okay, maybe like 70. But that man had no business doing a press conference on a topic like this. They should have used a media spokesperson because that man said, oh, yeah, we offered her tens of millions. What? And then he clarified it was 10 million. You better take it to your grave. I wouldn't have said we offered her anything. Yes, no. Not Shannon. Shannon's lawyer. Shannon never said it. His lawyer said that in a press conference yesterday. Exactly. Y'all, it's important that you have a multifaceted legal team when you're dealing with high profile cases like this, because you got the lawyers that do amazing lawyering and have the great relationships with the judges. And then you've got the lawyers who are great with the media and storytelling. That my gift is storytelling. If you watch the channel, you can see, hit that like button. My gift is storytelling and telling the story in a way where the most diverse people each understand it for their respective context. And you tell it in a way that's simple, that's clear, that has clear, all up here with legalese and law school speak, but you talk in an everyday way. That guy really thought, I think the lawyer probably felt like, well, yeah, I can admit that we offered, 10 million because it's not admissible in court. It's not. But guess what? Some of these people listening are going to be on the jury. They could absolutely show up to jury duty. That was the goofiest thing, Mr. Old Man Lawyer Lanny Davis. Yeah, it was the press conference. I think it was an audio press conference, so you may just catch some audio from if you go to tmz.com. So the question is, she has proof. She has audio for sure, and possibly video. She's got audio and video. And this case is all going to come down to context and whether the majority of people on that jury are going to believe that she was a victim in that audio or that she was consenting to BDSM or some kinky, freaky shit. And here's the thing about civil. Unlike criminal, in criminal, you win. It has to be, beyond a reasonable doubt. For her to win in civil, someone just has to believe it's 51% more likely that she was R-worded than 50. They could literally feel like, if they feel like both of them could be telling the truth, but they want to give her that 1%, that's how it works. It's just whoever you believe 51%, you feel like you give a 51% of the truth to, that's who wins the civil case. So it's way easier. She is 19. Yeah, a lot of people are going to feel like he knew better. Yep, Ocho tried to get him someone his age, and he wouldn't do it. Absolutely. She's certainly looking for a payday. Here's the reason. But I mean, I'll say this. What was odd to me is that because she's looking for a payday, but she didn't take it when it was offered. So the 10 million, when you say no to that, what's interesting is, like, you got to remember, this is not a criminal case. It's a civil case. So the only thing that's there to obtain is money. So she must feel strongly that based on the facts, she's going to get at least, she has to believe she's going to get at least 15 or 20 million. Because you got to think about, does she want to be known for this? And that could be it too. She may have said no because she didn't want to sign a confidentiality agreement. This is Nevada. They don't have the same rules. She may have had to be silenced, and she may wanted to say, you know what? My OnlyFans is really going to blow up once people know I'm the one that Shannon liked. Because if you look at her face, nobody's looking at her face. That her face is not going to get her. Her face is not going to get her nobody's deals. So we'll see. But thanks again for watching. Hit that like if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe on the way out. Oh, and guys, don't forget, I'm going to be setting up the video. Jesse and I, tonight, we've got one of the background check episodes. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be great. To Lies Do Us Part. And if you're interested in a background check, you can, should be a link in the form below, or one of the links on the page, but it should be on the form below, where you can submit to win a free background check, and then you'll get to come on the channel. You can be anonymous to get your results. All right, guys, have a great evening. Bye. It's your legal bestie.